Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Wonder how I'm gonna know. This is kind of fun. Alex and I have never used this technology before. So if you can just type in the chat, if you can hear me, just say yes. You'll see on the top right part of the screen where there's like chat room, polls, pop-ins, videos. Yay! Super. So fun to see. We had like, oh my gosh, I think we had like 500 or 600 people register for this career planning workshop, which for me is just like, it's just really nice to get our mindset set for 2016 in October. I try to do this for myself in October because it's a natural time of reflecting. It's just a natural time of letting the leaves fall from the tree, letting energy go down into our root. And in that, there's a process of letting go what's not working or what did work great and is now sort of outdated and just falling away. So I'd like to start with that, of just letting yourself drop into what that means to you right now. And I know there's lots of people from down under who are they're going more into spring and summer, which is a different energy, but we also have a global culture that's going into like a new year. So we want to use either the springtime energy if we're coming from spring, or we want to use the fall energy if we're going into autumn. We just want to start to drop into like, what is letting go? Before we ask like, what's coming next? Let's just start with what is letting go. And just take a moment, reflect, maybe write a few things down. For some of us, maybe we've been just too busy. Maybe the things that we're doing aren't getting us the kind of return on investment that we want them to. So we need to get like really aware of like, what's just not really working so much anymore. And to get clued in. So writing a few things down. Creating a little bit of space. And then looking towards what really is working well, like what's starting to gain momentum for you. What's really working, or you think like, wow, this is a creative energy and I really want to ride with it. So we know that nature works in cycles. We know that we're nature. So obviously we work in cycles. And there can be a feeling sometimes in our careers where like we're beating certain things with we're beating a dead horse with a stick. Heard that expression? I use it all the time. It's a horrible expression, but it kind of captures the essence of like, oh, right? And so where that is, and then what is like, wow, this is gaining momentum. Wow, this is just picking up steam. I love aphorisms because they really capture it. Right, so what's starting to gain momentum? What's starting to capture some steam? And getting clear on what that is, like write those things down. Because it's fun to look ahead, and it's fun to have a little bit of distance between now and 2016 to look ahead and see like what's next? What's coming up? From this place where we can create a little bit of space. And that's where we're going to begin our call. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up a little slideshow. My co-host, Alex, I'm not sure what's happening. I can't see her here, and I'm not Sure, but Alex is head of admissions at yogahealer.com. So I'm not sure how to give you the mic, or if you want to, if you just have it and can start talking, but go ahead and say hi while I bring up the slides if you're here. And we'll, okay, great. Can you, I wonder how I can hear you. Yeah, for some reason I can't hear you, Alex. I'm not sure if there's something in your settings. All right. So we're gonna dive right in here. Present to everybody. All right. So career planning. We have a lot to talk about. We want to look at a few things. First of all, here, this is Alex, who's head of admissions, who will hopefully be joining. I'm not sure how I can bring your voice in, Alex, from my side. I know when we tested it out yesterday, it worked great. It's funny how things happen. But, oh, there you are. I still can't hear you. I'm not sure if your mic's on or off. All right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm gonna just tell you a little bit about my history here and why I can teach you about career path stuff, what gives me the authority here. And I have a history. I started yogahealer.com online in 2001. So that it's been 2 cycles of 7 of having an online presence and working in the field of yoga and Ayurveda, first as a yoga teacher and an Ayurvedic practitioner. Later, I developed the Yogi Detox. And then,
can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Great. Oh, great.
Yay. Hi. And so I'll just do this, and then Alex, you can talk and then I'll introduce you and you can talk for a bit. So I developed, basically as an Ayurvedic practitioner, I saw a lot of gaps in the system, in the way that I was taught to work with people, and what I intuited to be like a much, much better way. And so as we talk today, I want you to also realize, like, where are the places that you sense a new idea, like that you sense you want to move into an emerging field, or you want to create something with more traction. Because what we're going to show you today in this career planning workshop is that there's just a lot of leeway in the marketplace. There's a lot of opportunities. And if we know how to sense them, if we know how to move into the space and what additional training we're going to need, then it can help us get there so much faster. All right, can you guys see the slides? I'm seeing someone saying they can't see the slides. Someone saying that they're here. Yeah, okay, great. So I then went on to create the Living Ayurveda course, which was, I found, a much better way to teach people about how to have a body, about the practices of Ayurveda, than it was to see one-on-one clients. And then I went on to create Yoga Health Coaching, because the people who went through Living Ayurveda course wanted to help other people, wanted to use the same coaching method to work with people. And so what we're going to describe today is a little bit about career planning and the business stuff behind it. That's enabled us to build enabled me to build a very sizable business here, and enables me to help yoga teachers and wellness experts grow their career with some of the very same strategies and tactics. And a lot of it, what we find, has to do with planning. Okay, so many people don't have the planning skills. As healers, we're very intuitive, and often we have a little bit of a gap in terms of how to actually manifest in real time with real numbers. And that's where I know, when we look at what are some of the bigger issues, we find that, and that's what Alex is going to talk about in a minute, is what we find is that it can get really challenging to make things happen. So what we're going to do today is why you need a plan, how not to work harder, where to put your attention, what to do instead, and when to do what. Because all of this has to do with how we plan things at Yoga Healer and how we grow consistently year after year. So Alex, go ahead and just talk a little bit about what you do here in admissions, and why we have you here talking about, like, what goes on behind the scenes with the people, the yoga teachers and the wellness experts that you talk to all the time. It looks like she got dropped. I'm just going to go on then. So in general, what we find is that people are working too hard, not making enough money, wanting to make a bigger splash, and feeling stressed out and not having enough time for self-care. These are the top 5 issues that we hear from the yoga teachers and the wellness experts that we talk to every day. One of Alex's jobs as head of admissions is just to talk to people who are trying to have a breakthrough in their career. And this is the stuff we hear again and again and again. One of the biggest problems is that people don't have time to work on their business, right? So there's time that we spend working on our business, and there's time that we work spending in our business. And so what I want everyone to do right now is get in either in your inner eye, get an idea of what your calendar's been like for the last few weeks. And how much time have you spent working on your business versus in your business? So in your business would be seeing clients, it would be teaching classes, it would be creating some marketing materials, maybe for growing your number of clients, right? So those things that just bring in the money that you need to do to keep your business rolling. How much time is spent there? And how much time is spent actually working on some of the bigger goals and dreams? Whether that's creating a different kind of a program, whether that's working on a website, whether that's revamping the way that you're working. And so what we're gonna talk about a little bit is how to see different business models and make sure that in your wellness career that you have the right business model that lines up with the kind of lifestyle that you want, right? And the kind of, also the kind of impact that you wanna have and the kind of money that you wanna make. Okay, so how does that sound? Yeah, are we on the same page? Great, great. All right, sorry, Alex, I'm not sure what you got dropped, but now you're back. Yeah?
Yes, I'm here now. I don't know what happened, but now I'm back.
Okay, so we're just talking about, the issues that you're seeing with people with not having enough time to work on their business. I'm gonna just move the slide forward. And do you want to talk a little bit about this next frustration about even when people do have time to work on their business, they're not really sure what's most important, like what to do?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, the first frustration really leads into the second frustration. There's a saying in business that you should spend as much time working on your business as you work in your business, but that almost never happens. And that really leads into the second frustration of even when you do make time, you just don't know which projects are the most important for the long haul, or you can't even imagine the long haul when you have just a small amount of time to plan and the week ahead of you already looks daunting. You can barely get the week planned without trying to think about, next month, next quarter, next year.
Yeah. And so many of us are, we're parents, like both Alex and I are working moms. Many people too are taking care of other people, whether it's aging parents or whether you're naturally a caregiver. So it can be like, where's their time? Because you need to make a living, you need to take care of other people. And then when you do have time, often it's not a big enough block of time that's really structured with what comes first and what comes second. And so what we're going to talk about today is some like really basic planning tools that we use here so that we can make the most of the time that we have to put into work. And so much is, everyone's heard that expression, measure twice, cut once. I grew up with someone who was raised by a guy who was a builder or who knew how to build. And so it's something that we just, whenever we'd make a mistake when we were remodeling the house, my husband would be like, oh, we forgot to measure twice, right? And that's really the essence, is we want the right tools to be able to plan ahead, to be able to know exactly what to be doing, when to be on track with the goals that we have, with the manifestations. We spent a little bit in the beginning talking about, what's trying to come through us, like what the next big dream is. And so for us to get really aware that there's going to be some reverse engineering that has to happen to make that happen. All right, so the glass ceiling. Let Alex go ahead and talk about this. She got dropped. I'm going to talk about the glass ceiling. So the thing with glass ceilings is we all have them. Even I have them, and I make a lot of money, and I've had a very successful business for a long time. But there's always a level, right, which we don't know how to get through. So I just want to, on our little chat, let me know if you've hit your glass ceilings. As yogis and people that are attuned to holistic and more evolutionary enlightenment thought, this can be a really confusing topic, because it might just be like, I'm making 60 grand a year, I'm working my butt off, I wish I didn't have to work so hard for my money. That's a glass ceiling. And it might not be that you're actually dissatisfied, right? It might not actually be like that like $60,000 or whatever the number is for you isn't enough. And some of us even will have guilt around wanting more. But my experience of it is like this. The universe is expanding, right? The universe is always expanding. There's always more creativity. There's always more life. We also know that there's more money printed each year. There's more money in circulation on the planet each year. So actually, the amount of money is also expanding. So the ceiling is when we put ourselves in a bit of a box, and we do it with our belief system, and we also do it with not getting the next level of training that we need, which might be a really different kind of training than we've ever had before, to show us different ways of working, so that we start to, and everyone has heard the expression to work smarter and not harder. There's actually tools that we need to be able to do that. And I know for me, in each income stage of my business, I can see that there's a different set of tools that are needed to break through the glass ceiling. Anything to add, Alex?
Yeah. It's, we're here talking about planning today, and planning is really one of the most important tools, if not the most important tools. We think about the glass ceiling as just money, but money comes from planning, and success comes from planning. And if you don't know how to plan to grow your business, one of two things is going to happen. It's either not going to grow, or if it does grow, it's going to grow out of control, and you're going to be too overworked to enjoy it, and you'll become exhausted just trying to manage one day at a time.
Yeah, and I've gone through that. As well, where the business grew too fast, and I didn't have the skills to actually allow it to grow with good planning. So that we're going to just give you some of the what I've learned along the way from what hasn't worked. What we find more of, though, is that people don't actually know how to get to the next level, and we might actually be even a little bit out of touch with our desire to get to the next level. Like, it might be there, but we sort of suppress it a little bit. And then others of us are like, no, you know what? I'm ready. Like, I want to break 6 figures, or I want to break $250,000, or like whatever it is for you. Maybe it's 50,000, right? That there's all these different levels. And there's a realization that, you know what? I don't really have any time to do that, but I want it. So how am I going to figure this out? If there's no time, how am I going to figure out how to actually get through? So what we're going to give you is some of the planning tools for that. But the next thing that we want to talk about a little bit is also like this other big frustration around running my career, like the actual time I spend on my business, that is just taking too much time. And especially with social media, like, I don't know if I should be putting my time into LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube channel or have a podcast, or if I should, have it, let us my whatever, create images for Pinterest or Instagram or whatnot. And so if that's you, just know that it's normal to have these concerns right now. Yeah. Anything else to add to what you're hearing on the strategy sessions with the yoga teachers and wellness experts?
Yeah, I mean, this really could be the frustration that I hear more than anything else. So many people are just like, no, I don't have time. I can't even deal with social media. They tell me that technology in general is overwhelming, but social media is extra overwhelming. And, just the thought of trying to market their businesses on social media after teaching classes and seeing clients and doing all the stuff that they are good at, it's just trying to figure out the social media jungle is is impossible, let alone using it effectively to market their business. And it's just, I hear it all the time from people. I don't know how to use it. I don't know, or if I do know how to use it, I don't know how to use it to grow my business. I know how to make posts, but it's not growing my business.
Right.
And it's such a great tool if you do know how to use it, but you have to learn. It doesn't come naturally.
Yeah. And there's so much out there. There's so many great, how to grow your wellness career with Facebook or with YouTube channels or, with this or that. And it's really easy to kind of like get a bunch of like little bits of like little chunks of information, and then not know how to actually bring it through the full manifestation. And that can be overwhelming too, because then we're like taking little stabs at it. And so what we really want to look at is like, where are you going? We know that overworked and underpaid is a business model problem, right? And that's something that we talk about a lot within courses here, is that like, it's just a business model problem. So if you're feeling that like, wow, we get a lot of yoga teachers and wellness providers that have put at least $50,000 into their wellness training, and they're not making great money, and they don't have a big following. They don't have a big tribe. They know a lot. They want to help people more. But there's a symptom of like, I deserve more, but I don't know how, but people won't pay me more kind of thing. And I have no more time. But if we actually, what we're going to look at right now is why this is a business model problem. Because if we're planning, just so you guys get this, if we're planning with the wrong business model, right, we're just planning around a business model that's broken. Right. And that's, you know what it is? That is fixable. Okay. And that's what we really want to get. Anything to add, Alex?
Yeah, I think so many of us work in the business model called running yourself ragged. And people think that they have to be running themselves ragged to be successful. And, what we're talking about today is you don't have to do that. And as a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say that if you're running yourself ragged, you are by definition not successful, because you can't enjoy your life and you can't enjoy the fruits of your labors. So if you're working under the assumption that you have to work hard and run yourself ragged to be successful, then stay on for the rest of the call, because we're going to show you that that's not the case. It's like we said, it's optional and it's fixable.
Yeah. So we feed what we focus on. This is something that is, I think I first heard this from Dr. Claudia Welch. Many of you have come over from the Healthier Hormones community. Awesome. Glad you're here. And she brought this up in a call that we did last January. You can hear it on the podcast if you mixed it. It's called You Feed What You Focus On. But this whole idea of what we're focusing on is what we end up putting energy into. So if we're going to repeat in 2016 what we've been doing in 2015, that's leaving us with some of those big frustrations that we went into in the beginning, then that's actually what is going to get nourished. And that's actually what is going to grow. And so I know for me, I had to make decisions along the way with growth. And I've grown about 30% a year for the last, I don't know how many years, but maybe about 5 years. It's been a long time, is that I have to change to grow. So I have to change what I'm focusing on. I have to actually uplift my focus and put it somewhere else. I have to not just water the one plant, but I have to lift the can up and start watering in a part of the yard that I've never even been to before. So I just want to make that really clear for all of us, that we are being invited into new ways. If we're stuck, it means that there's opportunities, there's new ways of focusing our attention that might be very, very unfamiliar. And because they're unfamiliar, it might be quite uncomfortable, and a lot of resistance might rise up. And for all of us as wellness experts, this is a wellness career planning, seminar, right? As wellness experts, we see this in our clients all the time, or our students or our patients, and we see their resistance and we see where they're stuck, right? And we're like, well, if they could just breathe, they could just learn how to exhale, right? Or if they could just get a little bit of movement in their spine, right? If they could just do these really simple things, if they could put their energy out of their anxiety and into their lower lungs, then wow, okay, then we can have some progress here. Well, and the same thing's true for us in our business models, that we have to shift our focus. So what I'm going to show you next is a few different ways to look at business models. And so that as we start planning our 2016, we start planning around the right business model. So the first one I'm going to show you, this is where a lot of people are. This is annual income, $35,000, how to make money. The $35,000 in this example is majority is coming from teaching yoga classes and doing one-on-one work. If you're a wellness practitioner and you're not teaching classes and it's all one-on-one work, then that's probably the majority of where it's coming from. And these are just different income streams that we're looking at here. And then there's workshops, which might be event-based workshops, which require their own marketing and promotion. And so if this is where you're at, and many people are here, the average yoga teacher, wellness expert in this country is at median income level, which is about $45,000 in the US. So this is just showing like slightly below median income in United States. So you can adjust it for your own economy and currency. This is going to be a little different. So if this person grows, so let's double this now. So let's look at $70,000. Where much more money is coming in through yoga classes and one-on-one work. Now they're up to $45,000 there, and $10,000 through workshops, and $15,000 through retreats. I'm just curious too, like, how are numbers? How are you guys with numbers? Do you know how much money you're making? Do you know how it breaks down? And so if you can just take for a moment, because this is a good thing to be like, you can totally check out in this conversation and just be like, oh, slides, pretty. Or you can actually look at your own numbers right now and like just write quick sketch. Like if you asked me where my money was coming from, I could get pretty close. And I have a lot of income streams, right? But I know about what each of them is bringing in annually. So go ahead and write that down for you. And what I'd also like you to become aware of right now, and you can also, spend some time after this conversation of really looking at like how much time for how much money is coming in. And I just want to look on our chat. If you guys want to just chime in on the chat and let me know how this conversation's going with. Do you know your income streams? How much is coming in from where? And then what do you want to grow in 2016? Which of these do you want to grow? Sometimes we don't want to grow at all, but we might want to just work smarter. We might see that like, oh my gosh, those retreats that I do, they only bring in $15,000 a year and they take up like way too much time to fill, and that takes up time for me doing other things. All right. So now let's look at the next stage. I work with wellness experts at all these different levels of income. Up to about $200,000. So we're going to look at all of these stages. We look at what happens when people break, like how do people actually like break six figures, the six-figure glass ceiling? What we see usually is a very different model, that they're not just teaching yoga classes and they're not just doing one-on-one work, because that at the end of the day is still, it's still basically like trading time for money, if you will. Like and there's only so much time. Like everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. So at some point you get maxed out. And if these numbers are making anyone uncomfortable and you just feel like, why is this about money? I thought this was about career planning. It's because this is what we're seeing. We have conversations. I don't know how many conversations Alex has a week with yoga teachers and experts, wellness experts working on their career. But this is the conversation that we're finding like needs to happen for people to understand why they don't have enough time and why they're not hitting really the next level of maturation in their career. Anything to add there, Alex?
Yeah, I think you've already hit on it a little bit. The biggest reason that people are not hitting where they want to be in their career is they've put all their money into the modality training. They're so good at what they do.
Yep.
Yeah, everyone I talk to is so talented and so good at what they do, but they haven't invested in their business, and they haven't yet seen the importance of investing both time and finances in their business training, because if you're working for yourself, you're in business, whether you call yourself a business person or not, and you need to know how to run your business. And that's the biggest thing that I see is that's the roadblock. That's the glass ceiling, is the lack of business training.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what we find there then is if we're gonna really start to break through the glass ceiling and hit a higher price point, income level, there's a diversification that happens where time is leveraged for money. And at this point, what happens is you have to make a shift into, it's funny, but it's like in many ways it goes from like taking care of people to helping people get results. So you might be like, well, that's the same, but I find that there's a pivot in there. And what happens with when you develop a signature system, so here the example is $60,000 is coming in from a signature system, and a lot of teachers that we're working with yoga health coaching, it would come in through bringing in a group coaching model with a higher price point offering, that it's not a one-on-one unless it's a significant amount more money than a group program. And that with that, then there's a higher level. So someone might go through, for instance, like the way that I teach it in Body Thrive. Body Thrive is a 10-week program. It's $1,000. So I need to work with 60 people a year to make that $1,000, right, per person, to make $60,000. If I ran 3 groups of 20, that would bring me that $60,000 income. Then if I had a mastermind group that was maybe $4,000 for 6 months, I would need 5 people in it to make that extra $20,000. So now I have $80,000 coming in. That's highly leverageable time. When I then look at it, what I want you to see there is that those mountains that are taller, that's where the real income comes in then. And those other things, the yoga classes, the retreats, the workshops, those end up becoming lead generation for a better, basically for the coaching and for the mastermind. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about planning around a more leverageable business model. And actually I'd love to see, just if you guys can comment, like how long have you been doing what you're doing? And are you truly an expert? And yes, Eileen, I'm gonna take a moment now and try to make this full screen. Thanks for that reminder. So I'm gonna turn off screen sharing. And I'd love to just here and there, Alex, you can also just talk a little bit too about what you're finding with, because you come from sales and you're a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
So a lot of in our programs, when we're teaching people how to shift business models, like sales is the biggest, like sales is huge.
Sales is a dirty word.
Sales is a dirty word. So yeah, talk about that for a moment.
A lot of people I find in this industry, the wellness industry, want to help people, and that's awesome. That's why we got into this field, is to help people. And they feel that if they're getting money for helping people, they're somehow cheating people. And that's so not the case. That's what you're doing, is you're exchanging value. You're giving them the value of feeling better, of losing weight, of sleeping through the night, of whatever it is they want, and they are in exchange giving you money for it. So that's the first hurdle that people really have to get over. And then sales conversations, people feel like, I'm going to be a sleazy used car salesman, and you're not. And that's, one of the things that Kate does so well in her courses is teaches people to have a caring, a compassionate sales conversation that's about, what do you want? What do you deeply want to transform? And maybe I can help you get there. And, maybe we can't, maybe you can't. But that's really what it's all about. Sales is a conversation to see what you as a wellness provider can do to help the person who needs help. And if you can help them, then you're exchanging value with that person. And that's really what it comes down to. And it's a big hurdle.
Yeah, and this is where what I want everyone to hear in this is that's where getting results, building programs that get results becomes more and more important if you want to break through your glass ceiling. Like if you want to actually plan in according with the kind of lifestyle that you want and the kind of income that you want, right? The kind of like time amount you want to spend working. What happens is, and it's, to me, it's such a cool, fascinating like paradigm shift for a lot of us, is that once we get in the notion of like, if I'm just teaching yoga classes and I'm just letting people sign up to work with me one-on-one whenever they want, I'm disadvantaging my clients, my students, my patients from actually having a breakthrough. And this is a really weird thing, but what happens when someone has to have a deep dive conversation and decide like, oh, what I really want to do is sleep through the night, or what I really want to do is get off my anti-anxiety meds, or what I really want to do is lose this 40 pounds that I've been carrying for the last 20 years, or what I really want to do is go through menopause in a way that's like really cool, like an enlightening experience. That's what I really want. And we start to know how to get someone there, and we build a program that gets other people like them knowing that they're not the only one, and we get them there, and we niche to them. What starts to happen is that those people are actually they become very willing to invest in results. They become very willing to invest in the experience as well of being with other people that want those same results. And that is a total game changer. So I see a question on the program, or on the conversation. What is a signature system? A signature system is when you have a plan to get people from where they are to where they want to be, and you actually build a program around that. So I have a bunch of signature systems. I have the Living Ayurveda course, which teaches people the fundamentals of a one-year Ayurvedic college curriculum for themselves, from their home, for their own body. For many of them are yoga teachers, for their yoga students, and I teach that in 9 months. People come in and they don't understand. They might know a little bit about Ayurveda. They might know a lot, but they want to know from a personal perspective how to learn that. Now, another signature system that we use in the yoga health coaches, I give them a signature system in that program where they lead people through 10 Ayurvedic habits in 10 weeks. And those habits help people change their sleeping schedule, their eating schedule, their exercise, their breathing, and they start to live in alignment with nature. It's a system that helps people change their habits in real time to get results. And then the coaches themselves can niche it. Do they want to niche it to weight loss? Do they want to niche it to menopause? Do they want to niche it to yoga people learning Ayurvedic habits? And there's many ways to go off that. But the idea is that if we don't have a proven process that helps people get to where they want to go, then we're going to be sort of stuck. I'm just going to go back a slide. We're going to be stuck in that, trading dollars per hour as the majority of where our income comes in. And then we'll notice that if we want to grow, we hit exhaustion because we're just still like, if someone calls up, are you available Thursday? And you look on Thursday and there's a space there and you say yes. And now you have like a little less time to work on your business, and you're a little bit more just sort of in the wheel of trading your time for money. The way it disadvantages the client is that they're not as committed. If they can know that like they can see you Thursday, or they can see you Friday, or they can just drop into yoga class next week, or oh, something else came up, so I'm not going to go to yoga, they're less invested in truly being focused on what kind of results they want. And we all know what it's like, especially for those of us who've been in the field for, I would say, at least 5 years. If you've been in the field, in the wellness field for at least 5 years, you have probably had the experience, which I call professional, it's sort of a horrible term, but it felt like babysitting to me, where like someone was paying me to be like their wellness sitter. And I would come and I would be with them in a healing way, but they weren't actually making progress. They weren't actually stepping forward into who they wanted to be. And the work became boring to me because it wasn't results focused. And it just felt like, there's other work that's more important. There's other people that really want to break through. I need to be working with them, because that's where the work gets interesting, is when people transform. You as wellness experts help people transform. So how money should come in is through getting results through transformation-oriented work that's packaged in a way where people really have to invest. All right, so what we'll see is that then that can grow. So now what I'm going to show you in the next slide, and it looks exactly the same, but the mounds are a little bit bigger. So what I want you to see, to go from, let's say, $100,000 income to $200,000 income a year, is what happens is that what actually grows on the back end of people that are actually making great money in this field is that what actually grows is the stuff that's leverageable, is the group programs that get results, either mastermind groups or the yoga health coaching or signature system programs. And those two things are linked. The mastermind group is usually when people have gone through, for us, the yoga health coaches, they teach this 10-week program, we call it Body Thrive. They teach that, and then they can enroll people into mastermind groups, or their students can go back through that 10-week signature system again. Other people in our Yoga Healer business course, they create their own signature systems, and then they basically can re-enroll people in that to get more grounded, or they can bring them to the next level, which is where everyone who's gone through that signature system, where they then get to go into much deeper practice and into really I find it's like an intentional community of practitioners. All right, so if we look then we have a little an example here, right? So we get how what we're going to be planning on in 2016 really depends on the business model, right? So we want to, oops, sorry, the slide, it's hard to control. This is a PDF instead of a slide thing. So freaking sensitive to the touch. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we want to plan also based on money per transaction. I had some of my yoga health coaches, this was a few months ago, and they were struggling with not having enough time to work on their business. And so I had them actually do a breakdown of how much money was coming in per amount of time transacted. And so if you look at, like, say you're teaching a yoga class, you want to include everything from like when you stop doing the other things that you're doing to work on your business to when you get back and how much money you made. And just start to look at how are you going to plan in the future? If some of your biggest frustrations are around time and money, how are you going to plan so that you're increasing the amount of money per transaction? So Alex talked a little bit about sales and how sales is a dirty word in wellness in the holistic and enlightenment communities in many ways. And it's really, in my experience, it comes from a misunderstanding of what it's like to transact value in the marketplace. What I find is that when I look back at the massive income jumps and the massive, like, sort of freedom-based lifestyle shifts that I had, is that they happened when I was transacting at a higher price point. So what does that mean? It meant, in many ways, giving up teaching yoga classes that were bringing in $50 to $100 to enrolling people in deeper programs where it would cost them $1,000 to $8,000 to get into the program. Because then I started to work with people who were super committed. And my level of commitment to them went up. Their results, like the results that they were getting from that, went up. So I want you to plan your 2016 based on, in many ways, dollars and time per transaction. All right, and now we're going to get a little bit more into the planning part of it. Alex, anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back quickly to what you said about commitment and, taking care versus getting results. I talk to people a lot about, teaching yoga classes and seeing one-on-one clients, and I tell them, there isn't a commitment beyond 90 minutes and $20 in a yoga class. And that's great. And you're taking care of them. You're giving them 90 minutes worth of work. But as Kate said, when people spend more, they tend to commit more. And then they're getting the results that they want. When someone hasn't slept through the night in 10 years, they're willing to do just about anything to get a good night's sleep. And that's the difference between dropping in and commitment. And I think that kind of wraps up everything that Kate was saying about the difference between being really committed to growth and change and results and just dropping in every once in a while for a yoga class, a massage, a one-on-one consultation, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it makes such a big difference. And when we look at planning for growth, and I don't mean just in terms of like dollar growth too, but like how we personally want to grow in 2016. And for some of us, there is a dollar sign there. And for others of us, it might just be like, oh, I just want to do this kind of work. I want to take these kind of people on this kind of journey. I want to get really more in control of how I'm spending time. I want to read books again, or whatever it is that. Looking at that, how you plan your career, what business model you use, where your income streams are, what the kind of time and money is per transaction, right? And what kind of results that you're actually getting from people, the kind of work that brings you the deepest joy. You need to plan around that. So you need to plan around your own growth, whether that's financial or it's financial and time, or it's a mix. Yeah, and I'd love to hear any comments on that too in the chat. Some of this stuff should bring up like, oh, right, I haven't done that in the past. So when you know what your plan is, then you can start to charge ahead. So for instance, like Alex and I know, we know what we want to be selling in 2016. We have numbers. We want to sell this much of this program. We want to sell that much of that program. We want to do we want to have this many sort of like low dollar, low entry, interest generating, free calls or free webinars or videos to watch, etc. Like we know what it looks like. So now we can move that plan into action. So I want you to all to get that, like the vision has to happen before we can start planning around it. We've got to get really clear with we got to like sweep in the corners. And like see like what is there, what's going on, what's not working, what's outdated, what needs to fall away, what do I need to learn, who do I need to be in conversation with, what do I need to align with in order to make the shift, what do I need to, remember when I was talking before that little plant slide about like what do I need to focus on so that I can grow. All right, so I'm going to show you now some just basic tools that we use. We use a lot of Google Docs for planning. We have our, basically it's like our whole, like the whole sort of skeleton of yogahealer.com lives in Google Docs and it's backed up. So you don't have to worry about like losing it all one day because if you just back it up regularly, but it's a way for us to share planning tools. Now, even if you're not, even if you work totally alone, actually, let me know in the chat, like how many of you have a virtual assistant or a personal assistant, that someone that is assisting you in growing your career? Because the thing is if you're working with someone else, you need to use shareable stuff on the cloud. If you're just working by yourself, like you could get away with having all of your planning stuff just on your own computer. But the problem with that is as soon as you want more time or you want to grow and you want more money, you're going to run into that. You actually need some help. And you need some people to help do some things around growing your career or just around planning your career. And then you're immediately going to need to share documents. Yeah, okay, good to know. So what we use, what you see here, and you see basically a bit of a plan for what we're doing right now in fourth quarter 2015. These are the big chunks that I'm responsible for. Okay, so we each have this, everyone on my team has this. So Alex has hers, my virtual assistants have other ones. Many of you are just working alone, which is fine. But you still need to do this, meaning you still need to schedule meetings with yourself to identify exactly what you're working on quarter by quarter. And if you don't do that, what happens is you kind of get to the desk and you have 2 hours to work and you don't really know what to do. So it's a way of just starting to organize on a 12-week system. And there's some great books. One of them is the 12-week year. I really recommend that. And that's a great way to start thinking quarter by quarter. As you plan out 2016, you want to have about 3 big goals for the entire year. 3 things at the most. Even 1 big goal is fine. Like, whatever that, if you have an income goal, hitting $60,000 or breaking 6 figures, you might have an income goal. If you have like a list growth goal, reaching more people, maybe you want your income to stay the same and you don't really need to focus on it, but you just have like one really big, like, I just want to have, whatever, 10,000 people on my email list. And so then that you can then break that down into different rocks, like the different projects that will enable that to manifest book by book. Maybe you'll start guest blogging. Maybe you'll start a podcast. Maybe you'll do a telesummit, et cetera. There's a lot of different tools to grow your list that then would be those different rocks per quarter. So to have a system where you know which projects you're working on in which quarter, and the goals for the year, you'll see on this, they are on the left side of the screen. The rocks are in the middle, and then who owns them. If you're just working alone, you're going to own all of those suckers. But as you take on a personal assistant or a virtual assistant, other people will start to have their own rocks that you can then you both know when you're meeting exactly who's responsible for what. Anything to add, Alex, in there?
Yeah, just one of the reasons behind planning in 12 weeks, and if you get the book, The 12-Week Year, you'll get more details on this. I forget the author's name, but you can find it on Amazon, is that a year is just too long. It's just too overwhelming to say, okay, it's January 1st and I want to have this done by December 1st. It just, by nature, just seems to fall away. But the 12-week planning, the quarterly planning, and that's why so many successful businesses do it. It's just the right amount of time to look at these goals, to look at these rocks up here and say, okay, I've got 12 weeks. I've got a few months to get this done, and it keeps you focused for that amount of time.
Yeah. And you guys, so much of what we're talking about, people don't do, and I didn't used to do it either. Like, I am full on hardcore, like, yoga teacher, Ayurvedic practitioner, was not trained in project management, was not trained in how do you actually organize career. I had no business training until I started to do business training. I had no project management training until I learned it. And I'm really telling you, like, from the bottom of my heart, this is so important. It's so important that you get really clear on, like, where it is you're going, and you start to break it down into actionable steps. So from here, then what happens next is we go into I'm going to back up. This is okay. So here we go. This is a marketing calendar. This one's a year old, the one I'm showing you right now. This is part of the 2015 marketing calendar. What I want you to see is on the top, there's just dates. It's just week by week, like what is going on. The reason the marketing calendar becomes so important is if we know what, say we're trying to sell X amount of Living Ayurveda courses, and then we're going to try to sell X amount of yogi detoxes. We need somewhere to organize, like, what is when. For those of you who, you might have a cleanse that you offer. You may have a retreat that you offer. You may be launching a new set of yoga classes, right? Like, what is the launch schedule? How much time is it going to take you to get enough interest to make it worthwhile to actually deliver? And so what you're going to see is that there's 3 sections, and I'll email you guys these slides afterwards so that you can see them up close and personal. But on the left side is like the creation or the prep work that goes into it. Then underneath that is the marketing and the launch period. And underneath that is the delivery period. So we need to have all these things mapped out, because what I hear from so many people is it's like, there's just, I'm just trying to do too much at the same time. And then there'll be like a lull afterwards. So what we want to do with our planning is actually set it out the first quarter of 2016 of like, what are you launching when? And it's not a bad idea to actually set out your entire 2016 marketing calendar in very broad strokes of like what you need to fill by when to hit your income targets that you're wanting to, and hit your lifestyle and the amount of time you want to be working targets well ahead of time, so that you're not overloading yourself. So this is one of the first things we do is like, once we know what the goals are, is we actually, and once we know how much we want to sell each course, how many members I want enrolled in a certain course, how much I can handle, and how much we can, get the right people in at the right price point and the right commitment point, then bam, like now we have a plan. Now we just got to basically break it down into bite-sized pieces. Okay. Is what we do next. And this is the content calendar. Yes, there it is. This is another Google Doc. This is a Google spreadsheet. And what we do here, this is where we basically take what we want to be selling. So say we want to be selling the detox. Some of you may have noticed this who've been on the email list, is we sold the detox in early October, and we ran a Bring a Friend campaign. So everything that we did around content, like what was on the blog, what was on the podcast, what were the things that I was talking about? For those of you who don't have a blog, you don't have a website, you don't have a podcast, you do want to start to generate some channel. And it can honestly just be your Facebook page. And what you would do is then ahead of time, you would actually look at like, what kind of content do I want to put out? Maybe I want to put out some detox recipes before just to get people interested in detox. Maybe I want to interview 3 weight loss specialists. Maybe you want to talk to 3 people who cleared their autoimmune issues with detoxes before then. Get people thinking about this stuff, and then I'll let them know when my course is starting. So something like that. That is what is on a content calendar. I just want to get a sense too, if you're blogging or podcasting or doing YouTube videos, just let me know in the chat. I want to get a sense. And if you're not, let me know that too. Let me know if you haven't yet developed a platform to attract people to your work. Because if you haven't done that, I would say like you probably want to do that in 2016. That could be one of your big goals, is to develop a platform. What we can understand here is now we have a plan. As soon as we have content, we actually have a plan for our social media. We actually have an idea of like, wow, that's what I would use Facebook for then, is to like start talking about these things and start adding value to the conversation. I'm known for example, for detox. Anything to add, Alex?
Yeah, just looking at the content calendar and having something like this, it brings to mind, the old saying of, if you build it, they will come. And that does not work anymore. It used to be, I'm just good at what I do, and so that's how my business is going to run. But with social media and podcasts and blogging and everything that's going on out there, just being you, unfortunately, isn't enough anymore. You've got to get yourself out there. And these are all, you don't have to do all of them, but these are all great ways. Like Kate said, just start with a Facebook page and, go with what you like to do. If you like to write, think about blogging. If you like to talk, think about podcasting. If you like to wave your hands up and down, think about videos. Go with what you like, but you can't just hang a sign out saying I'm great and expect things to work for you anymore. You really have to get out with some sort of social media. So
yeah. So with this too, it's like you really don't need to do all of it. It's better to do one thing well than to be kind of everywhere inconsistently. For instance, if you have a newsletter and you send it sporadically, like honestly, I've heard so many great business coaches say like, you might as well not bother. Because you're just not you're not on people's radar. They're not going to you for information. They're not opening your newsletter every week for information. So maybe one of your goals then in 2016, as you start to plan your 2016, is to actually have a newsletter that you send out weekly, or to actually write a blog post every week if you're going to be a blogger. Or if you're going to like rule Instagram, maybe you're going to post a photo on Instagram 5 days a week. That's something helpful. Maybe it's it's a picture of some like yummy food, or it's a recipe for how to have a better morning or whatnot. Like, how are you going to be useful to your tribe? And you don't, that's a good question, Carolyn. How do you decide what to do? You just do what you like, and you just stay right there. Like I do, you guys may have noticed or not noticed, but I don't tweet. I have a Twitter account. We don't really use it. We just repost everything from everything else. We don't use it. I'm not a tweeter. We post on Facebook. I'm also, I have an Instagram account. I have a Pinterest account. Pinterest has brought in money. It has brought new people in through the tip sheets that are there that have converted into clients, but we haven't developed it, and it's not a focus. So I just chose one. I just chose Facebook because my target audience is women in their 40s and 50s, and even in their 60s. And those people are not as much on Instagram. They're much more on Pinterest and Facebook. So I also go to where the audience is. Now let me talk a little bit about channels and platforms. And I'm not sure how long this was scheduled for, but we're gonna probably be on for another 15 minutes to half an hour. So just, you can adjust, you can, I invite you to stay because you guys need to know this. The idea here is that I was blogging, and then I noticed that I'd much rather, I like the mic. I should actually let me stop the screen share here, right? Like, I like the microphone. I love it. I love talking. And most of my coaching, it has me talking a lot, and I enjoy it. It's fast, and I like the connection. So I've had a podcast since 2012 because I needed something to do with all these great interviews I had for my courses. And then what happened is, like, people started listening to the podcast, and those people became clients, and they were my favorite clients. My favorite clients are often podcast listeners, like much more so than even like Facebook followers or blog readers. And I'm like, well, who's coming in through which medium? And which medium do I like to spend the most time in? Where's my interest and desire? Where's the Shakti leading me? That's where I'm going to go. So that's how I decide on what to do. Now, in the beginning, don't worry too much about the medium. Just choose a medium that you like, that you're already kind of like, Instagram's cool or Facebook's cool or whatever, and then commit. And then create a bit of a content marketing calendar around that based on what you're trying to sell, right? Based on what classes and courses you're trying to fill. And now you have a bit of a plan. So you're taking, and I know this planning workshop is like, you're getting some new ideas about how to actually plan for 2016. That's really what we're trying to do here. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the next slide. There we go. We're gonna show you some different project management tools. So once we know what we're doing, right? We know what we're promoting, we know what we're marketing, we know what we're developing, we know what we're delivering. Where do we organize this stuff? I want to get a sense who is using a project management tool. There's a bunch of them out there. Some of them are free until you have more projects and then you pay. We like a few: Asana, Rike, Basecamp. Those are all great. Who's using them? I need to see in the comments. Are you using a project management tool? And when I say using, like, you're in it. You're in it at least 4 days a week. Now you're using it, you're checking in with what is the next action step for your project. Because what we find is that in our courses with both the Yoga Health Coaches and the Yoga Healer Business course, I want to say 0% of people come in using a project management tool. What's your sense, Alex?
Yeah, 0 or very, very low. Most people don't even know what it is when I first talk to them.
Yeah, so we don't know what it is, which means that, like, how are we making things happen? Like, what tools are we using to actually plan? Okay, so what we see is that some people have used it, some people have dabbled in it, but a lot of us, nope, none, nada. Yes, well, there's a yes, good for the yesers. So we need more yeses. What we want to start to see is that when we have a lot of projects, which we all do, if we have a website, websites are not static. If your website is static, it's dead. It's kind of like you're not, a static website actually has a name. It's called a brochure website, which means it's like a brochure. It's kind of nice. Like, people can find where you are and what you do, but it's not a dynamic place, which means you're not really tapped into using technology in a way that you can build a community around your business to do better work in the world. Honestly, that's sort of how I feel about it. Like, there's a certain amount of just amazingness that we're able to share due to the internet. And it doesn't have to be complex. It might just be, putting a blog post up once a week, or a little YouTube video that's 2 minutes long on your blog page once a week. It doesn't have to be thing. But the website is something to be managed. If you have one, if you don't have one, you should have one. It means that when people are Googling you because they hear about you, they're actually ending up on, like, a Facebook page, or they're ending up at the yoga studio you taught at 5 years ago, or they're ending up on, like, something you don't even know, because your name will come up when you Google it. So you want it to go to a place you can control. The only place you can control is your website. You can't control Facebook. They change all the time. You can't control Instagram. Those are all other people's platforms. Your website is your own platform. And that's an ongoing project to be managed. Okay, content marketing. We covered that, how, like, there's things that you need to put out each week to let people know what's going on and what they should be thinking about, because it's what you're going to help them with next. There's also delivering services, like how are you actually servicing your clients, your patients, your customers, your students. And there's just general projects around running business, like bookkeeping and how you're, maybe you're wanting to open a bunch of social media accounts or something like that. Maybe you need to take a certain training. Where are you managing all these different projects in a way that you can see them all at a glance, you can hold yourself to deadlines, and you can move forward? Anything to add, Alex?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the consequences of not planning. And I'm sure at least some of you have probably experienced, when you're not managing your projects, they just start to pile up on you and overwhelm you. And then you start to take on new projects before finishing the old ones. And then you end up with a zillion undone to-dos, which stresses you out and keeps you awake at night. And then the worst part is maybe you even start missing deadlines and blowing things off. And there is nothing worse for a business than that. So that's, the project management tool makes it easy to not have those negative consequences.
Yeah, and it's the way that you can manage complexity and growth. We all, if we're experiencing overwhelm, it usually means there's too much stuff in our mind, meaning that your mind doesn't have a place to put it reliably, that you're going to be able to find it in the future when it's most appropriate for you to be thinking about that. There's a very popular book written about this called Getting Things Done. Many of you have maybe heard of David Allen. He created a multi-zillion-dollar business on getting things done and helping people get that, like, your brain is not meant to be a project management tool. It fails at that. It's not even that good of a note taker. Don't store what you need to do in your brain, or your brain will get really, really tired and then you'll feel exhausted. And he doesn't go to the point of saying then you'll develop an autoimmune disease, but I will. I'll go there and say, and then you'll basically, you'll wear out your immune system and things will turn ugly. Okay, so we need to get all this stuff we want to do out of our brains. And let's go back up to this slide. So this is just an example of asana. We see a bunch of stuff on the left side. There's like the website project and the ad campaign project and this and that, right? And when you click on it, anything, what you find is that then you can put in like who needs to do what when, and you can give yourself a deadline. The other thing you can do is order your to-dos. So say, for instance, now you have a project in the next quarter, which is to plan your 2016. That's a project. If that project lives somewhere where you can then add notes, and you might create a vision board first to see what you actually want to do. You might actually spend some time looking at your 2015 numbers and seeing what's making you money and what's not making you money. These are all to-dos. These are all things that need to be done. So someone who realizes that, oh, wow, I do have a lot of projects actually, and they should all live in the same place, so that then when I have 2 hours to work on my business, I can see what deadlines are next, what I'm working on when, and I don't waste a minute. I don't skip a beat. I sit down, I open my project management tool instead of a bunch of notes, or instead of my email to see, like, a lot of people use their email as a project management tool. And I've been there, you guys. When like before I was in like the, or like the low six figures, I was totally using my email to manage my projects. It's like, I look back at that, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I was using my calendar for a while too. So I put like blocks of time and notes of what project I was working on when. And then after, it took me way too long. I was very, very resistant to managing projects. Maybe it took me 2 years to start to use a project management tool on a daily basis, where I'm going to open that before I open email. I'm going to open that before I open my calendar. I'm going to know like what needs to get done today before I see how time is scheduled that day. And that helps me prioritize. So if you're not using one of these, and I don't care if you're only making $30,000 a year, I want you to start using one of these. And when you use it, like you've got to set in a trigger habit reward. Like the trigger is, I want to check my email. And the habit is, don't check your email. Open your project management tool and see what's going on in your project. See what you need to update in your project management tool so that you're starting to use your time very effectively. The reward is like, okay, great. Now you know what you've got going on with your projects today and this week, and now you can go check your email. Anything to add, Alex?
Yeah, just using your project management tool in conjunction with your calendar is just a recipe for success. That marketing calendar that Kate had up a couple of slides ago, you map that out and you've got your quarter or your year mapped out. And then you pull up your project management tool and you can say, okay, I've got XYZ project starting in March, and you can reverse engineer that and put tasks on your calendar that are going to get you to a successful launch of XYZ project because you've mapped it out. And then you look at what else you have going on later in the year and you put your tasks in there for that. And so when you use the two of those together, it's really just, things start to run so much more smoothly.
Yeah. And you get out of, for anyone who heard the podcast with Tina Forsyth a few weeks ago, she's been just so amazing for me. And that was on I think it was that podcast with the same name of this workshop. It was something around career planning for 2016. But like, listen to her talk in there about like when you are addicted to kind of like running your life like it's an emergency. Like when you're just sort of on the roller coaster. And what Alex just talked about is like when you actually build systems around like stepping off the roller coaster, step away from the roller coaster, meet the ground, right? And we get grounded. And we have vision that's grounded in action. And all of a sudden we find that like we don't need to always be thinking about our business because things are taken care of and they're organized. And when it's time to go back and work on the business again, maybe Monday morning at 9 a.m. after having a weekend where we didn't think about our business at all, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're ready. And oh, there it is. That's the first thing I need to do today in my project management tool. Check my schedule, make sure my schedule has integrity with the projects. Yeah. This is like really good stuff, you guys. Even if you're like totally resistant to hearing it, I just need you to I need to tell you that like, I've done really well in business. I never knew this stuff. These are all the really hard lessons I've learned through trial and error, and I've learned through like wasting a lot of time. And when I look back, I'm like, I wish I had taken a course in high school on like project management and like calendar integrity. And I let's just say like it could have been a much easier road for my ambition. All right, so going back to the slides here. You're living in a made-up world. I love this. This is a phrase I heard Greg Hartle, who he spoke at a conference I was at a couple of years ago. His website is $10 on a laptop. He's an amazing businessman. He's grown a few multi-million-dollar businesses. He's younger than me. He came from nothing, from the wrong side of the tracks, gangs, etc. He's just an amazing, brilliant guy. And he's like, you're living in a made-up world. So what I want to teach you in that is that 2016 is a blank canvas. What do you want? Like, what do you want to create? You're a creator, right? So what do you want to create? And what do you want to create for your clients, for your students? I know for me, when I started to really just get that, wow, there's a better way to do this. I created Living Ayurveda course. I created Yogi Detox. I created the Yoga Healer Business Course Signature System program to help people build and sell their signature systems and realign their business model in 9 months. Why? Because I'm like, this should happen. This sounds like fun. I know how to do this. I know how to get people these results. What results do you want to get for people? In what kind of timeline? Make that up. You're living in a made-up world. Like, what kind of life do you want to have? I decided I wanted to live half-time in Mexico so I could surf. And it's getting cold here in Idaho right now. We leave a week from Saturday to go back down there. And I'm like, I took some major risks to make up the world I wanted to live in, to make up the kind of reality where I can get on an airplane and go to my second home in Mexico and get out my paddle boards and have, what my dream is, right? Not your dream, but what my dream was. So when we really step into like, wow, we have so much advantage being in the wellness profession. We all know how to take great care of ourselves. We know how to build deep energy in ourselves, and we can do so in a way that enables us then to have so much extra energy to help other people, right? And how exactly do you want to do that? How exactly do you want to design your lifestyle? How exactly do you want to help people? On what terms do you want to work with people? And what I decided years ago was like, you know what? I'll work with big groups at a lower price point. I'll even do tons of stuff for free, including a weekly podcast. But when I really work with a client to get them results, they're going to be invested. They're going to want change as bad as I want change. And then I'm going to help them full-heartedly get exactly the results that they're signing up for. All right? And when you structure your career that way, whoa, the kind of joy in your work the kind of feedback you get from your clients because they're getting results that they never even thought they could experience. We hear this every single day at yogahealer.com. Oh my gosh, I'm losing the weight effortlessly. Oh my gosh, I'm like noticing the medications falling away. Oh my gosh, my husband is getting healthier. This is the most amazing thing, right? Because everything is results oriented. All right, anything to add there, Alex?
Yeah, just thinking about what you said, that really resonates with me, and I think it'll probably resonate with a lot of people here, that your life is really what you make it. You know, so many people, you hear people all the time saying, I can't do that, I wish I could do that, but, and it's really just a change in perspective. It's really just, my life is what I want it to be, and your lives are what you want them to be. And you really, you've got to focus on that. If you want something to happen, there's a pretty good chance that you can make it happen if you want it badly enough. And that's, you know, I love that you are living in a made up world. I hadn't seen that before. I think that's great.
Well, it's fun to hear you say it too, because you have, I mean, in the last year, you started working for me in January. You left a career you were less than fond of, right? Even
Yep.
your daughter, like your old career. And
Yep.
you were living in a different town. You had a totally different day-to-day life. And now you're working in a job that you love. You love talking to the yoga teachers and the wellness experts and helping them strategize their career. I mean, and it's so, when we really step into like, oh my gosh, what do I want to do in 2016? How do I want to design my life? How do I want to design my career? How do I want to design my income? And we get clear, and then we realize, like, one of the first things I do then is like, okay, what additional training do I need? And what kind of people do I need to be spending time with? What kind of relationships do I need to have? And in some of those, honestly, you need to pay for. At least I have. I was like, wow, I need to hang out with people who know a lot more than I do about this. Where are they hanging out? Oh, wow, I can be in this course and in this community that's in that conversation where someone is actually being paid to help me get results. And when we do that, oh my gosh, things start to happen because we have put our money where our mouth is. We've put our intention there. And once you figure that part out of it, what'll happen is that you'll be able to sell results to your clients. You'll be able to, I'm just going to go back in the slides here. You'll be able to develop, whether you do it through yoga health coaching or whether you do it through building your own signature system, you're going to be able to build a way of bringing in income that is so far superior than to all the other ways. And there'll be, what happens is it actually will bring you so much more satisfaction. And what we find time and again is that then people hear about like what it's like to be in those higher level, higher dollar courses with you. And they want in. They're like, my friend Mary was in that, you know, was in that yoga health coaching, was in Body Thrive. And she looks great. Like her joints don't hurt anymore. She's playing with her grandkids on the floor again. She's exercising every day. Her skin looks better than it's looked in 10 years. And I know, I want that. How do I get in? And then they'll get in, and you'll notice that everything starts to really shift because you are the one who shifted. You decided to really, you know, be with people that are developing, are selling at a higher price point, are delivering more value, are getting better results, and not just letting people just drop in and out of your life on their own whim instead of taking charge of the business in the way that you want to run it. So we also wanted to give everybody here an invitation to talking to Alex. You can just fill out you can either do it through filling out an application at yogahealthcoaching.com/apply, or there's a bunch of links, but basically if you fill out an application, you'll end up talking to Alex. Even if you want to just talk to Alex about what is your 2016 career strategy, we have another link for you too, Alex. What is it? Is it just yogahealer.com/strategy?
/Alex.
Oh, /Alex. Go to yogahealer.com/Alex, and she'll just type that right into the chat box. But if you go there, you can just fill out a little application and then sit down and go over your 2016 plan and go over some of the things that you're letting go of and some of the things that you want to break through to. And what'll happen is you'll have a chance to just talk about it with someone who gets to talk about this all the time, where your issues, which might seem really personal to you, are really normal to us, right? It's like, oh yeah, okay, yep. And we actually have diagnostic tools where it's like, oh, well, this is exactly where you're at because you haven't done this part yet. Have you gotten any education in this part? No. Okay, well, here's a good resource for you to start to do that. So I really encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity. Go to yogahealer.com/Alex, ALEX. And when you schedule that in your calendar and in Alex's calendar, like take that time very seriously, right? Have a quiet space to do that conversation. Do a little bit of your 2016 planning before you have that conversation. Get really clear with what your glass ceiling is and where those glass ceilings are showing up. Are they showing up in time? Are they showing up in income? Are they showing up in losing touch with desire, feeling burnt out? Is it more like you just don't really know what this next phase of your business should look like? Is it you actually have so many opportunities and so many things are working? That one used to happen to me all the time. It was actually, I was like, I would talk to my coaches over time. I've always had coaches throughout the last 10 years. They're like, everything's working. I have no life, And it's like, and they're like, okay, stop doing that. Hire this person for this and do that, And it's like, oh, thank you, right? And it's like someone else can just see it because that's their job. So we really invite you just get, take advantage of this. Go to yogahealer.com/Alex and talk to us. And if you do want to just use our signature system with Yoga Health Coaching, you can find that more about that at yogahealthcoaching.com. There's even a video at yogahealthcoaching.com/start, like start here kind of thing. We just use start. And it's a fun little video where you can really get a sense of how the business model works and how you can help people, at the next level of your work, so that your work is the most meaningful work that you can be doing in the world right now. So we will get you all these slides. I know they were hard to see on this little computer. So you'll get slides from us and you'll get a scheduling link. Anything to add, Alex?
Please do take advantage of this offer and talk to me. It's the most fun, and the main part of my job is just talking to you guys and helping you figure out where you want to go and what you want to do, and whether yoga health coaching or one of our programs is the right fit for you or not. It'll still be really helpful, and it'll still be thought-provoking, and it'll get you working on thinking about what you want to do next. So I really hope you will schedule with me. I enjoy talking to you so much and hope to talk to you very soon.
Yeah, it's so fun to, like what we know over time is that when we have a chance to be present with someone who can deeply listen and who actually gets us, like gets our life, like gets that, sometimes it's really not about the money and it's just so much more about community development. Or sometimes, like we had a big call yesterday in the Yoga Healer business course around fame. Like some of us are called to have a bigger platform than we currently have. And it's like painful to us that we're not the one writing for Yoga Journal, or we're not the one writing for Spirituality and Health, or we're not invited to that Ayurveda Summit to be a speaker, or like whatever it is. We're like, I could add to that conversation, and we're in frustration or friction around that. To talk to someone who knows what that is and knows knows what you need to do next to meet that desire to make a bigger impact. It's really kind of an awesome thing. And the other thing that Alex will do in the conversation is refer you to other free tools that we have. We have lots of great free tools around yogahealer.com to help wellness experts and yoga teachers, get the next level of training. And for those of you who are like, what, I'm done with the free stuff. Like I want to be in the right conversation and I want to move ahead. We'll let you know exactly how to do that. All right, everyone, thanks so much for being here. If you found this helpful and you want to share it with your friends, you can also do that after the call. We'll send you the links. And just wishing everyone an awesome end of 2015. Let's take a moment now and just get present. We're going into All Hallows Eve. We're going into All Souls Day. We're going into this time where the veil's actually thin. And that's where there's all these holidays right now, is the veil's thin. And the veils between heaven and earth, between manifest and spirit, they get really, really thin so we can actually see clearly. That's exactly why we did this workshop right now. And what we want to do is use some time, contemplate what's trying to fall away, what's moving into your creative capacity. And just take note, write that down, and then talk to Alex about it. Okay, namaste. Bow to you all.
Namaste. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.